Hey, this is Warren Redlick. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming to the Daily Lie. Today we're going to be talking about Tesla. We're going to be talking about SpaceX. We're going to be talking about Neuralink, the boring company, Elon Musk, maybe a little Twitter, Bill Gates. We got a lot going on today. Are you ready? Let's go. Good news for Tesla. There's been some concerns about Tesla Shanghai. The Giga Shanghai factory had been shut down due to lockdowns in Shanghai from the Chinese government, concerns over public health. It appears they're back up and running. They're making great progress, according to Tesla Roddy. And Elon says Tesla China is doing incredible work. That's good news for Q2. We just had Q1 numbers. Tesla's deliveries were not down, but they weren't up very much. We're looking for much larger delivery numbers this year. At the earnings call, Elon said he's hoping for 1.5 million deliveries this year. I think he's sandbagging. I think we might see 1.6 million. A lot of that depends on Shanghai ramping and continuing to grow its output. If Shanghai can really kick it into gear, we could see a bigger number for Tesla for the year 2022. Same thing for Giga Texas, same thing for Berlin. As they ramp, that's going to be a big impact. But nice to see this, that Giga Shanghai is getting up and running. Another really interesting detail that came up this week, this is my friend Omar Kazi, the guy I bought my Tesla from. Omar says that Rivian's operating expenses are higher than Tesla's operating expenses. You got to wrap your head around this for a second. Tesla delivered 305,000 cars in the first quarter of 2022. Rivian delivered hundreds, maybe 1,000, a very small volume of cars. They spent more money delivering 1,000 cars or less than Tesla spent delivering 300,000 cars. Partly this is just Rivian, still a young company. They're still getting their feet under them. They're still figuring out how to run their business. And partly what this really shows is how amazing Tesla is at operating efficiency. This is a super efficient company. That's why they're making so much profits. That's why their profits are going to grow radically as they expand production and deliveries. Really, really good news. Elon says that he thinks that Tesla's OpEx was embarrassingly high. So, he wants to still, let's get more efficient, let's get more efficient, let's get more efficient. Dave Lee points out, I've interviewed Dave Lee before. Check my channel to see my Dave Lee interview. Dave Lee points out most don't realize that Tesla's OpEx, that's operating expenses, includes R&D expenses not just for electric vehicles, but also for 4680 batteries. Rivian doesn't make its own batteries, is not trying to. Full self-driving robotaxi, Rivian's not working on that. Optimus humanoid robot, Rivian's not working on that. Basically, Tesla is prepping multi-trillion dollar markets, multiple multi-trillion markets, while going after their first one, EVs. This is, Dave Lee is the guy who's usually conservative. When I interviewed Dave Lee, he didn't want to get carried away with what might happen to Tesla stock. And you can see Dave is starting to get pumped. And Dave is a huge Tesla shareholder. He's a huge early investor. Absolutely love Dave Lee, and I love this comment from Dave. This gives you a sense. Not only is Tesla's operating expense really efficient, their operating expenses are really hyper efficient compared to other companies, but there's a lot more included in those operating expenses that other companies don't have. So amazing company. Elon is absolutely spectacular, and the Tesla team, I really want to say this because it doesn't get said enough. The Tesla team is amazing. Elon's a great leader. He brings together great people. He builds great teams. Don't forget how great the team is. It's not just one guy. There's a great team. There's Drew Baglino. There's Zach Kirkhorn. There's Lars. There's the AI team. There's so much going on in Tesla. It's beyond belief. Absolutely spectacular. Really quick, Cyberbad asks in the chat, if you are a supporter of this channel on Locals, you can participate in the chat. He says Tesla is using, I think he means lithium iron phosphate batteries. It's not, I don't know what the FR is, but I think he means lithium iron phosphate batteries in half of cars. Is this only in China? I believe that the vast majority of lithium iron phosphate batteries used in Tesla cars are in China. I think they're only making them in China. Some of those vehicles are shipped to Europe, and I think they have shipped some lithium iron phosphate battery packs to the United States for some Standard Range Plus Model 3s. My friends who get pitches to invest in various EV startups don't understand issues like fast charging rates and supercharging. One tried to get me to invest in an obvious EV pump. And yeah, people don't realize how important Tesla's supercharging network is in making the Tesla experience so much better. Whenever I go on trips, I use the Tesla supercharging network. It's so easy, it's so smooth, it's so inexpensive. They just raised prices 10%. It's still crazy inexpensive to charge your car at a Tesla supercharger. Cheaper in my garage, but it's still very reasonable, a lot cheaper than filling up a gas tank. Okay, one other Tesla, well, I got a little bit more Tesla news, but one other interesting bit of Tesla news. I covered this when I have a video about what happened in the earnings call and what we learned from Q1 earnings. But Gary Black points out here the most informative chart. This is amazing. Okay, the day after the Super Bowl, Tesla had a surge in orders. Tesla didn't advertise in the Super Bowl. A lot of other car companies advertised their non-existent electric vehicles at the Super Bowl, and people watching those ads said, "Oh, I should order a Tesla." Like Tesla doesn't. Not only does Tesla not have to advertise, they're living so rent free in all the car companies' heads that when the car companies advertise for their own EVs, which don't really exist and they can't really make them in volume, that people watch those and say, "Oh, maybe I should order a Tesla." It's like absolutely, it's insane. This is insane. And Elon points out they've got a $1 trillion valuation with zero advertising spend. Now, I think Tesla might. It's not completely accurate. It's possible that Tesla spends money on advertising in China. I think it's possible they spent a very small amount of money on a Facebook ad test like 7 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that. But it's darn close to zero anyway. And they don't spend any money advertising in the US. So Tesla's spectacular. Love Elon, love Tesla. Gary Black and I butt heads a lot, but I really love that he pointed this out. Tagged one of my favorite people at Tesla, Martin Viecha. Martin Viecha is the director of investor relations. Wonderful guy. Part of the Tesla team. Again, the Tesla team, the Tesla team, the Tesla team. Great team at Tesla. Okay. The Hertz car ads help too. That's true. So, then now this is, we're going to get into, I haven't figured out what to call this yet. We've got Elon-Gates, Bill Gates. Elon has now revealed that Bill Gates admitted to him, and the story had been going around, that Bill Gates has a $500 million short position on Tesla. He is betting against Tesla with a $500 million short. Omar tweeted this out, that apparently Bill Gates hit up Elon Musk to discuss philanthropy on climate change. But Elon asked if he still had a $500 million short position on Tesla. Bill said he hasn't closed it out yet. He still asked Elon for money for some charity event. And Elon, let me show you and Elon says, Omar asked Elon if it was real. Elon said yes, but I didn't leak it to the New York Times. They must have got it through friends of friends. Elon asked, this is Elon in green. He says, do you still have a $500 million short position against Tesla? And you go over here, and Gates says, sorry to say I haven't closed it out. I would like to discuss philanthropy. Can you imagine the balls to admit to Elon, I'm shorting your company, I'm betting against your company, but I would like to discuss philanthropy opportunities. And Elon says, sorry, but I cannot take your philanthropy on climate change seriously when you have a massive short position against Tesla, the company doing the most to solve climate change. It's like, what is Bill Gates doing? So I've got a joke going on Twitter now where we're going to call this Elon-Gate, or because Elon has joked before that whenever he has some sort of issue, they should call it Elon-Gate. So is this Elon-Gates because of the word elongate, to make something longer, elongate? So because there's always like Watergate and there's all these, everything ends up with a gate. So is it Elon-Gates gate? I like to think of it as Elon. It's Gates' short, soft penis, but that's being really cold. Elongate. No, it's Elon-Gates. It's making it longer. That's what Gates needs because he's so short and soft. All right. So anyway, moving on. We're going to get to Q&A later. We're moving on to SpaceX. I don't have a lot on SpaceX today. I did just watch a Starlink launch, but Elon said SpaceX Falcon team making great progress, aiming for a 5-day launch cadence with many performance and refurbishment improvements. SpaceX's Falcon 9, the pregnant man emoji is hilarious, yes. SpaceX has the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, which apparently there's going to be a bunch of Falcon Heavy launches coming this summer and fall, and I'm probably going to watch all of them if I can. One of my friends is working on getting some of us, quote, backstage pass to see more of Canaveral than we usually get to see. I've been at Canaveral I've watched launches from Canaveral, but apparently this one friend may get me inside, so I'm excited about that. I don't know if I'll be able to get pictures and video from that, but if I can, I'll certainly share them with you. But Falcon 9 is, dominating the launch. And SpaceX is dominating the global launch industry. And I didn't bother including it, but there's this video of Elon saying, from several years ago, Elon saying SpaceX doesn't have any competition. Well, SpaceX really doesn't have any competition now. There's a little hope for Rocket Lab getting somewhere. Melody says, my brother filmed Starlink deploying here in Michigan earlier this week. Cool. You mean like from the ground, they were actually able to see Starlink satellites leaving the second stage? That's pretty amazing. Thank you, Melody. So, just, Falcon 9 is an amazing rocket platform, and SpaceX continues to innovate. This is the thing about Elon Musk companies. They don't get somewhere and stop innovating. They're constantly innovating to improve what they have. So I think there's actually a day coming up this month where SpaceX is doing 2 Starlink launches on the same day from 2 different pads. So much exciting stuff going on. Really excited about Falcon Heavy. Can't wait to see those launches coming up. Okay, and a little bit of humor. SpaceX is going to launch a mission to Uranus. It never stops. That never gets old. Tesla Roddy points it out. There's a mission coming to Uranus. Uranus, not mine. Elon said it had to be done. Elon having fun with it. So coming to Uranus soon. Just a little bit of fun. Still, we're still seeing progress on Starship. I think we're going to see. I'm hoping to actually, one of the things I'm really excited about, if I get inside Canaveral and get a backstage pass, is can we see progress on the launch platform for Starship at Canaveral? That's going to be fun to see. So let's move on. Really big news for Neuralink. Let's start here. Elon tweeted about this today. There's an article about whether Neuralink can help with morbid obesity, I guess getting people to eat less. Elon says we're working on bridging broken links between brain and body. The big story about Neuralink is coming soon. Neuralink bridging past weak broken links in neck and spine to Neuralinks in spinal cord should theoretically be able to restore full body functionality. He's talked about this before. It's an electronics, mechanical, software engineering problem for the Neuralink device that is similar in complexity level to smartwatches, which are not easy, plus the surgical robot. No need for artificial intelligence, neural nets, or machine learning quite yet. And then right here, Elon, he pinned this tweet on his account. If you've engineered or manufactured smartwatches or phones, please join Neuralink. Your skills are directly applicable. And then one of the Tesla clubs asked, is the first trial application of Neuralink in a human by year end? Elon says yes. So I want to believe that the Neuralink trial is going to start by year end. We are early. It's only April. Neuralink's working really hard. I don't know what the holdup is. I think we were hoping for the human trial to start last year. Not sure what's holding it up, but hopefully we're going to see Neuralink and first human as Siobhan Zillis. Siobhan Zillis is a project director or project manager for Neuralink, and she's done some videos. I have a video breaking down what Siobhan Zillis is talking about Neuralink. Huge fan of Siobhan's. So check out that video on my channel. First human, I think they were hoping for last year, but it looks like first human this year. Good to see. Let's hope it happens. This is personal to me. Alex asked Elon about whether Neuralink will address loss of memory in the human brain. And Elon says current generation Neuralinks can help to some degree, but an advanced case of Alzheimer's often involves macro degeneration of the brain. However, Neuralink should theoretically be able to restore almost any functionality lost due to localized brain damage from stroke or injury. So I have a family history of Alzheimer's, including my mother right now and her mother before. So I have ballpark 50% risk of developing Alzheimer's in my late 70s or early 80s. And I am hopeful that by that time, which is about 25 years away, I'm hopeful that Neuralink will be at the point where they have helped, where there will be progress on Alzheimer's. I don't know if Neuralink will be able to solve Alzheimer's. The next tweet coming up about Neuralink is going to address this. I also think it's interesting what people haven't talked about, and I haven't even seen Elon talk about this, is will Neuralink help us understand the brain? We know that Neuralink will help send signals into the brain, read signals from the brain. There's a lot of ways it could be used to address certain brain diseases or brain injuries. And yeah, my friend Neil is in the chat. Neil is actually a real world friend. From before I was even on YouTube, or not before I was an active YouTuber. And Neil is a bit older than me, and he says he may need it sooner. Neil is 20 years older than me? I think you're 20 years older than me. He's better looking and in better shape. He's also musical, so he's got that going for him. But love your chart regarding investment upgrade rating, Alexandra. Alexandra's in the chat. Hello, Alexandra. Yeah, there's this interesting question. I didn't talk about this. There's this interesting question of why the bond rating agencies have not upgraded Tesla to investment grade. Tesla has nearly zero debt. They're down to $100 million in debt, where some car companies have over $100 billion in debt. They are highly profitable, and the car companies are making excuses. So they're making excuses for why Tesla, and when Tesla becomes investment grade, some institutional investors may have restrictions on their investing and may not be able to buy Tesla stock because it's not investment grade. And that could free up those investors to buy Tesla stock, and that could be a short-term boost to the share price. So a lot of people are angry that S&P did not upgrade Tesla to investment grade. Tell me if I've got that wrong. Edward Jones limits the investment in Tesla. Yeah, I think this is it's not really important in the long term if you're a long-term investor, because this will happen at some point. And the practical reality is the stock is worth what it's worth based on what the company does, not based on whether some funds are willing to invest in it. But for sure, for people who are focused on little short-term bumps, it is a big deal. So anyway, let's talk about the really big tweet about Neuralink that blew me away. This absolutely blew me away. Bonkers stuff. Let me make this more readable first, and I'll expand it later. Talking about something else, Elon said might be less than 5 years away as current. Oh, this was about tinnitus. People who have like a ringing sound in their ears. There was a question that Elon was asked about that. And Elon said it might be less than 5 years away, as current version Neuralinks are semi-generalized neural read-write devices with about 1,000 electrodes, and tinnitus probably needs less than 1,000. This tinnitus is limited as a limited area of the brain. It affects a limited area of the brain, so you might not need a lot of electrodes reaching into that part of the brain in order to be able to address tinnitus. It's a very unpleasant condition for people who have it. It basically means you just have a constant ringing in your ear, and it can be very uncomfortable for some people. So, but this is the big news right here. Future generation Neuralinks will increase electrode count by many orders of magnitude. Now, a lot of the audience is probably not sophisticated. Some of you understand what that means. A lot of you may not understand what this means. An order of magnitude is basically 10x. One order of magnitude is 10x. So if currently Neuralink devices have 1,000 electrodes, then one order of magnitude would be 10,000 electrodes. He didn't say an order of magnitude. He said many. He didn't say a few orders of magnitude. He said many of orders of magnitude. That to me would mean like 5 orders of magnitude at least. Like 4 would still be a few. So that's not a 10x. That's not a 100x. That's not a 1,000x. That's not a 10,000x. That's like 100,000 times 1,000. That's like potentially 100 million electrodes in a Neuralink. 10 million, 100 million electrodes in a Neuralink device. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And that is where Neuralink becomes a massive improvement on human brain function. The ability to solve a variety of brain diseases. Howard says, Warren, do you have any idea what impact the public narrative has on decisions in the FDA to authorize brain implant? Are there other technologies using brain implants? There is another company that is doing something vaguely similar to Neuralink, and instead of doing it by opening up the skull and putting a Neuralink into the skull, because the Neuralink, what they do is it's not in this spot in the head, but they basically cut something about the size of a quarter hole in your brain. They pop the Neuralink chip in, and it's the same thickness as your skull, and they put the skin back over, and it basically heals up, and you can't even see that it's there. There's a different approach that another company is using where they insert the electrodes. I don't know if it's a chip or not, but they insert it up through like an artery, and it goes up into the brain that way. And it's able to, but it has, it doesn't have 1,000 electrodes. It has like 64 electrodes or something like that. So it's an experiment that did get FDA approval. So that experiment is going ahead. Probably that approach, you may be able to do more. And the idea being that you can get your electrodes close to the neurons by going through the arteries and or veins, because, blood vessels run near the neurons. So that could be a way that this might work. I think the Neuralink approach makes more sense, but I don't think this is a terrible approach. So there is at least one other approach that's going on that Might have some potential. Oh, Howard says, I've seen something on the head of deaf people. Is that sort of an implant? It's called a cochlear implant, Cochlear. Yes, I believe that is something that is used. I don't know if that can help with tinnitus, though. I think that helps deaf people hear. I don't think it works on tinnitus. Tinnitus is the ringing in the ear that's really unpleasant for people who have it. Okay, now we're going to shift from Neuralink to one of, I love all of Elon's companies. I have a certain passion for the Boring Company. Maybe it's because I'm a boring person, but this was really big news. First of all, Elon's encouraging people to work at the Boring Company. I did speak to someone when I was in Texas, someone who doesn't work at the Boring Company but is connected to the Boring Company, and I had talked about I had an interest in working at the Boring Company, and it was sort of like a half-hearted, like I have this idea of a job I might be able to do for the Boring Company, and he told me, well, they don't need that, but I can connect you with them. So there's a part of me that's thinking about, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. I may change my mind, but right now my answer is no. I don't want to work for the Boring Company. I do want to go work for the Boring Company. It's not right for me. But anyway, the big news is that the Boring Company just raised $675 million at a $5.675 billion valuation. Basically, it's a $6 billion company now. The purpose is to recruit amazing people, scale up boring machine production, and build thousands of miles of tunnels. And then I'm going to show you a lot of details from that. Oh, I don't mind the 60-hour weeks. Just to be clear, the reason why I probably wouldn't want to work for the Boring Company is I don't think I want to live in Austin, Texas. I think I have a lot of things that I want to do in life, and I would expect 80-hour weeks for the Boring Company, not 60-hour weeks. My daughters live in Florida and New York City. I'd expect, and it's a lot easier for me to see my daughters if I live in Florida than if I live in Austin. I don't think it's viable for me to work for the Boring Company in Florida. Oh, maybe it's worth checking on that. I want to start a family, and 80-hour weeks are not really conducive to starting a family. But it's still pulling at me. So it is also, when I was in Austin, I got chapped lips almost immediately. The dry air got to me. This talk of stored memories making up live forever one day is curious. I don't view that as me, but letting my twin brother robot live forever, maybe. Yes, there's a lot of potential for Neuralink to do a lot of interesting things. But anyway, so let's get into the Boring Company. This is really fascinating stuff. There's some really, just like Neuralink, the many orders of magnitude improvement in the Neuralink chip, going from 1,000 electrodes to maybe 10 million or 100 million electrodes is a big deal. There's something like that in the Boring Company story too. So let's get into this. So here's just some details. Series C funding round led by Vi Capital, Sequoia Capital, a bunch of like top flight venture capital funds invested in this round. For those who've been following my channel for a while, a while back I was thinking about forming a venture capital fund with a specific purpose of investing in the Boring Company. I decided not to do it because number one, I didn't have enough interest from investors. I think I would have been able to raise $5 million, but you can imagine that $5 million would not have been a significant impact on a $675 million funding round. We probably wouldn't have been able to participate in the funding round. And my gut feeling is Elon doesn't have a shortage of wealthy people putting together venture capital funds to invest in his companies. So I don't think I'm adding a lot of value by doing that. I think my Podcar startup very likely to fail, but I think I have potential to do more with the Podcar startup than anything else. Interesting that real estate partners are joining the round. That's a really interesting detail because the Boring Company is going to impact on real estate in a variety of ways. Lennar is a major home builder. I'm not familiar with Brookfield, Tishman Speyer, or DACRA. If they're commercial developers, you could see where they might want to see Boring Company stations. Whenever there's a Boring Company loop built on a city, they might want to have access to the Boring Company system for their home development or for their commercial development. Very interesting. All right, so let's move on. The company's mission. The company's mission is to solve traffic, to solve the problem of soul-destroying traffic. If you've ever been stuck in traffic, Elon wants to solve this problem for you. Tunnel is minimize usage of valuable surface land. There was a proposal for a Boring Company tunnel, and somebody was complaining that it would be, unsightly, and like it would be like, what are you talking about? It's a tunnel. It's underground. They minimize the use of valuable surface land, do not conflict with existing transportation systems. A large network of tunnels can alleviate congestion in any city. The tunnel I was talking about, there's a proposal for a pedestrian tunnel in Kyle, Texas, which is about 45 minutes south of Austin, maybe half an hour south of Austin. There's this one particular spot where they want to get under the train tracks from point A to point B to get to some park or something like that. And Boring Company submitted a proposal to do a fairly short tunnel. Really cool idea. Melody says, got back from Las Vegas last week, saw a new boring drill starting the next phase of the It's not they're not working on the Las Vegas Convention Center tunnel anymore. It's the Vegas Loop. The Convention Center tunnel is done, I think, unless they're working on a tunnel to a different resort, a different, spot on the Strip. But, ultimately they're going to be doing 29 miles of tunnel along the Strip to the airport, to the North Vegas. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. Mitch says Tishman owns and builds large skyscrapers in cities. Yeah, so you could imagine having a Boring Company tunnel station next to your skyscraper that's 60 stories tall that employs, 10,000 people. Having that have access to the Boring Company tunnel system is a great idea. NAB show starting today. Is that in Vegas? Maybe that's in Vegas. National Association of Builders? I don't know what NAB is. Okay, so tunnels can alleviate congestion. They can beautify cities because roads take up a lot of real estate. And, between roads and parking, you're taking up a lot of space. If you have transportation systems underground, surface lands can be used for pedestrians, green spaces, and recreation, and for more buildings. Oh, National Association of Broadcasters. Okay. All right, so we're going on. We're getting closer to the big story. There's a big thing coming in this. I want to keep you aware. There's something big coming in this that, if you're into Boring Company, you're into the tech, this is coming. Jim asks, how is my pod car different from the Aptera? They're now taking reservations on the website for an EV starting at $25,900. Aptera is a solar-powered vehicle that the company failed once. It's hard to tell whether the company's serious or not, but $25,000, I'm hoping my pod car is going to cost $1,000 to build. My pod car is not based on solar. It's not going to have solar cells on the vehicle. That's not the idea. So it's a completely different idea. And mine has 4 wheels. I don't think Aptera has 4 wheels. I think Aptera has 3 wheels. So more details about the Boring Company, loops and express public transportation system. An express public transportation system resembles an underground highway more than a subway system. If a subway or traditional light rail line had 100 stops, a train would typically stop at each station. So the trip between stop 1 and stop 100 would be long. In contrast, loop passengers travel directly to their destination anywhere between stop 1 to stop 100 without stopping at intermediate stations. So in Las Vegas, a system that stops at every hotel would take 25 minutes versus 5 minutes on the Boring Company system. And this architecture can be applied intra-city loop, and with increased boring speed, can be applied intercity hyperloop. This is what's coming, okay? Intercity, inside the city, is something that they can do now with the existing tunnel boring machine. If they can get a faster tunnel boring machine, and they can increase the speed of boring, which decreases the cost of building the tunnels. If they can get there, then hyperloop, then intercity loops become viable, and you can go to hyperloop, which is a vacuum tunnel and allows the vehicle to go a lot faster. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the big story here. So there's some information about the Las Vegas Loop, a 29-mile tunnel network connecting 51 stations, throughput of up to 57,000 passengers per hour. For end users, this means a trip from Harry Reid International Airport to any major destination on the Las Vegas Strip in 5 minutes or less with 0 stops. I took an Uber from the airport to the Las Vegas Strip to my hotel on the Strip. It probably took 20 minutes. And I think also what he left out here is that the Boring Company loop system will cost less money than taking an Uber as well. And the Vegas Loop is enabled by the Boring Company's proprietary tunnel boring machine called Proofrock. We're getting close. We're getting close. We're getting close. Here it is. It's on this page. So Proofrock is a next-generation tunnel boring machine designed to construct mega infrastructure projects. I don't know why they didn't say giga infrastructure projects. In a matter of weeks instead of years, and at a fraction of the cost. The current iteration, called Proofrock 2, is designed to mine at up to 1 mile per week. That means 29 miles of tunnel in Las Vegas could be done in 29 weeks. That's what they're headed for. Meaning a tunnel the length of the Las Vegas Strip, approximately 4 miles, can be completed in a month. They are headed towards, I don't think Proofrock 2 is fully, it's designed to mine it up to a mile a week. I don't think they're there yet, but they're getting close. But here's the big one. This is the big outsized goal. Proofrock 3, they're working on the next generation, or they're trying to engineer the next generation tunnel boring machine, designed to be even faster with a medium-term goal of 1/10 of a human walking speed, or 7 miles per day. They want to tunnel 7 miles per day, meaning they could finish, if that was ready today, they could do the Las Vegas tunnel system, not the stations, just the tunnels, in less than a week. And if you want to go intercity, if you want to go from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and let's say that's 300 miles, I'm making it up, I don't know how far it is. But if it's 350 miles at 7 miles a day, one tunnel boring machine would be able to do that in 50 days. And one of the things they don't talk about, and we're getting there, we're about to hit this, is what if you had more than one tunnel boring machine? Tunnel boring machine, TBC, the boring company, produces one new proof rock machine per month. This is in the short term. If each proof rock 2 mines at 1 mile per week, and the boring company produces one new proof rock machine per month, then the boring company will be introducing 600 miles per year of capacity. Okay, right now, the boring company has about 3 miles of tunnel in Las Vegas. Soon, the boring company will be making 600 miles of tunnel a year and increasing that. As a point of reference, less than 20 miles of underground subway tunnel has been constructed in the United States in the last 20 years. The boring company is ready to revolutionize transportation. I wish I could have gotten in on this funding round, because you're putting $6 billion. I have a video coming, not this week, probably not next week, in a few weeks. I'm going to do a video with napkin math on the boring company. The value is batshit insane. It's crazy, batshit crazy. It's coming. Will the boring company go public one day when they get big and profitable? I think they will go public. I'm not sure they will go public. Soon, boring machine will become it's not that boring machine will be the underground vehicle. It's that the boring machine opens a tunnel that allows for Teslas and other types of vehicles, electric vehicles, to go through these tunnels efficiently. Proof rock also has no humans while tunneling. It's all run remotely. That was in core technological innovations. Let me make this a little bigger. The core technological innovations. Porpoising means they don't have to dig a pit and then start tunneling. They can just, like, the boring machine can just dive down into its tunnel. In previous tunneling, they would dig a huge pit. It would cost a lot of money. They would build a huge pit and start tunneling straight into the tunneling. But because of the design, proof rock can dive down from ground level, and that's a much more efficient way to tunnel. Continuous mining, because they install the concrete segments as they bore, because the machine itself is shoring up the tunnel walls as it tunnels. It eliminates the need to stop the tunnel boring machine every 5 feet, and those stoppages are standard on most tunnel boring machines. So this is, a huge improvement on tunneling. And then what Mitch just mentioned, 0 people in tunnel. Unlike traditional tunnel boring machines, which require upwards of a dozen or more people to operate, proof rock is designed to be capable of operating completely remotely and autonomously via computerized systems, and requires 0 people in the tunnel to operate. You can go faster because you don't have people at risk inside the tunnel. You don't have people in the way. You're able to move faster. It's great stuff. Jim, if you're looking in the chat, Jim put a link to this document that I'm showing you in the chat. I want to go to my Q&A. I love doing a Q&A here. So if you have questions for the chat, please let me know. Here, let's start with this one. Dave to Dave says, slightly off-topic question. Cars in Europe are effectively required to show 5 to 10% more on the speedometer than they're really going, because older cars are not very accurate. What's the situation in the States and with Teslas in general? I actually don't know the answer to that question. I've always thought they probably had the speedometer overstate speed slightly, but I can't really say for sure. I don't know. What has to happen to let private citizens use their Teslas in boring tunnels? The Teslas have to be self-driving, and the system has to be built for it. I believe the long-term plan for the Vegas loop is that it will allow robo-taxis. It's not for you to drive in the tunnel. They don't want untrained humans driving in the tunnel. There's certain specific characteristics of driving in the boring company tunnels that you don't want to have a human accident, an accident in the tunnels. And an untrained, you have to be trained specifically to drive in the tunnels, because there are some little quirks in how the tunnel system works. You go to Vegas, when you're making a U-turn, there's this little tiny mirror you got to look at to make sure that you can see down the tunnel that's coming in, that you don't collide with them. The car coming out of the tunnel has to look at that. So ultimately, the plan is to have self-driving vehicles that won't make mistakes, that won't, drop their coffee, that won't get distracted by something, that won't get sick. And then the tunnel system will be a lot safer. So humans would not be able to drive in the tunnels. I don't think that's part of the plan at all. The plan is, if you have a self-driving Tesla or another self-driving EV that has adequate self-driving software, then a robotaxi picks you up at your home and drives you through the tunnel, or your self-driving Tesla drives you through the tunnel on the way to your destination. Lower insurance costs of tunnels since no humans are at risk. Wasn't there going to be some sort of platform or cart controlled by boring that can transport you? That was an earlier design, Howard. I don't think that's part of the design now. Both my Prius cars overstate the speed by 1 mile an hour according to my Top Garmin navigator. Yeah, I don't know if that's an intentional or that's just something random. All right, so let's go to the questions that were submitted by, this is from, if you are a supporter of this channel on Locals or Patreon or on the YouTube channel as a YouTube channel exclusive content member, sometimes this week it's basic members, then I ask in advance of the live stream usually, do you have any questions for the Q&A? You can participate in the chat if you're a local supporter. You can ask questions in advance of the live stream on Patreon and on as a YouTube channel member as well. David Tesla says, it seems that the Federal Reserve has screwed up badly and we're in for a colossal collapse of the entire stock market. We can rest assured that our Tesla stock is clearly the best performer in all of the market, but do we ride it out or do we sell some shares in the buyback when it is lower? Please use your crystal ball. So here's the problem. First of all, not financial advice. I don't know your personal situation. Talk to a wealth advisor, talk to Bradford Ferguson, talk to Ross Gerber, find a wealth advisor to make these decisions. I'm not sure. But truth is, I'm not sure anybody really knows how to answer this question. I think the notion that people have is that the stock market will collapse, and that misses the possibility that the dollar might collapse. On the one hand, you might have that the stock market could collapse, but on the other hand, you might have that the dollar itself might collapse. I mean, if the Federal Reserve is printing too much money, at some point, maybe we head to a hyperinflation. And then which value falls faster, the value of the dollars or the value of the stocks? And what Tesla has shown is that they outperform in a crisis. When we just had a crisis for the last 2 years, Tesla outperformed the rest of pretty much the entire business sector. So I feel more comfortable having my holdings in Tesla stock as being a more secure investment than having cash. And sort of the question there is, if you think we're facing some kind of collapse scenario, some stock market collapse or dollar collapse scenario, what's a safe place to put your money? I don't really know. You can kind of say real estate. I'm not sure because real estate values might be inflated right now. And the problem with real estate is also they're not very liquid. Tesla's worth more than gold in the coming dollar. I mean, gold is not necessarily a bad investment. I do own a little bit of gold. I don't know. I'm not really qualified to answer your question. I think that the only answer I can give to your question is that I don't think anybody is really qualified to answer your question. And my personal opinion is I think holding Tesla, if you continue to maintain ownership in something that's a productive asset, that's probably a good thing. A lot of my friends are big believers in gold. I don't see gold as a productive asset, but it does have a long history of being valuable to humans. So I think gold and silver are decent investments, and I do have a little of that. I think to some extent, I would say having a bug out, having your I have an apocalypse cabin. I have equipment for self-protection, so food, water, and ammo. Those are good investments for a real collapse scenario. It depends how bad you think the collapse is going to be, right? If the collapse is going to be bad enough, then investing in some place you can get away from it all is probably a good idea. Having a lot of water to drink, having food to eat, that could matter. We may end up in a real collapse scenario, and then when the zombies start walking around, what kind of guns do I have? I have 3 rifles and a pistol. I have a 22 rifle that's like what's called the Mossberg Plinkster. That's like a very low powered rifle. That's the only one I actually enjoy shooting because all the other ones I don't enjoy shooting. The Plinkster is like if you wanted to hunt rabbits or squirrels or something like that. That's about. I mean, you could definitely hurt someone with a 22. You can even kill someone with a 22, human with a 22, but not really what it's intended for. Not really a self-defense weapon. But the ammo is really cheap, and I have like crazy amount of ammo for that. I have 2 scary black rifles. I won't specify them, but they're scary black rifles. One of them is the common rifle used by villains in the stories, which I don't care. It's it's the most reliable rifle of that sort. And then I have, I'll say this one, an AR-10, which and what's 6.5 Creedmoor, which is designed for really long-range shooting. It's highly unlikely I will ever need to make that shot, but if I ever need to make a 500-yard shot, that's what the 6.5 Creedmoor is for. Really, it's almost more of an investment. I haven't even shot it yet. And then I have a Glock 26, which is a 9mm pistol that's fairly small. It's similar to what police carry, but a little smaller. So, Jim asks, is there anything that would switch you off the Democrats' registration? So yeah, it surprises a lot of people. I'm a registered Democrat. Why am I a registered Democrat? People don't understand this. I live in Broward County, and before that I lived in Palm Beach County. I think I'm still technically registered to vote in Palm Beach County. Palm Beach and Broward County are dominated by the Democrats. When you are in a county or a jurisdiction that is dominated by one party, the general election is always won by that party. So the only election that you have a significant influence over that matters is the primary election in the majority party. So I'm a registered Democrat, so I can vote for the Democrats I find more acceptable, because those are the people who are going to be representing me in the state legislature and Congress. And so my vote matters more for that. And in fact, my neighbor ran for state assembly or state House of Representatives, and I voted for her, and, she got elected, and I had an issue, and I was able to call her. And, even though I don't agree with her on a lot of policy issues, we have a friendly relationship. Our kids went to school together, and I was able to have a conversation with her about something that was happening with assisted living centers. And I'm not saying it mattered, but it was nice that I was able to talk to her, and I genuinely believe she's a good person, even if I disagree with her on policy issues. Did I see the story about Disney? DeSantis removed their special permit. Okay, so that's not the true story. That's how the story is being spun. So the true story about Disney is that Disney had a special status, what's known as a special district set up that enabled them to have special treatment in terms of taxes and certain services. They are not the only one. There are 6 such special districts that were affected by this legislation. DeSantis did not do this. The Florida state legislature, the state house and the state senate did this, and DeSantis, I don't even know if DeSantis signed it yet. I don't think this was even DeSantis's idea. Somebody in the Florida legislature, which is dominated by Republicans now and probably will be for a while, they did not like, supposedly the story is they did not like something Disney did related to wokeism or whatever. And so the Florida state legislature passed this law, and the law is not about Disney alone. It is that these 6 special districts were created before the current Florida Constitution, if I understand it correctly. It gives special privileges to these 6 special districts that are different from what ordinary corporations have, and it restores them to the same status as other corporations in the state. There is an argument that this is retaliatory against Disney and it's going to be found unconstitutional. I don't think so, but I'm not an expert on that area of law. I think it's a law of, it's because it applies to 6 districts instead of just Disney, because it restores them to the same status as everyone else rather than taking away a benefit that everyone else has. But I don't know what the courts are going to do with it, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's terribly important. It's just the kind of thing that grabs news attention and gets people upset and gets the left angry at the right and the right angry at the left, and everybody's screaming at each other, and it doesn't solve any problems. So DeSantis did sign the bill. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so going on to questions from my Patreon supporters. You can support me on Patreon. You can support me here on the Locals platform. You can support me as a YouTube channel member. Really appreciate any support. AK asks, has switching the live stream to locals.com been worth it? Selfishly, I prefer YouTube. The Q&A lasted much longer since non-payers could participate. I know YouTube was demonetizing them, but the overall content was better. Maybe it was overall better for your personal brand. So, I prefer live streaming on YouTube. I personally prefer it. Number one, I think my live streams on YouTube are 1080p and my live streams here are 720p. That's a small thing. I do prefer the greater engagement on the YouTube platform, but I have tried live streaming on YouTube recently, and I don't know if in the last month or so, but I keep trying every once in a while to live stream on YouTube and see if they demonetize me, and they keep demonetizing me. Now, I appeal or request review, and I usually get monetization restored. Sometimes it takes more than a day. Sometimes it happens really quickly. I will probably try it again, and if it happens but it gets restored quickly, then maybe I'll go ahead with YouTube again. But the other side of that is I do the videos here, I do the live streams here on Locals, and then I record it. And I did remember to record today, and I edit it and I make it a little bit more watchable, and then I put that on YouTube as a premiere, which allows for a live chat. So it's sort of like we have the interactive conversation here on Locals, and then we still have sort of an interactive conversation on YouTube as well. And I think that may actually be better than just live streaming to YouTube. I don't know, but until I feel comfortable that YouTube's not going to persistently demonetize me, it's kind of just, why would I live stream on YouTube? And I see a lot of problems on YouTube. And I also, I want to build up the Locals platform because I think YouTube is There's a sickness in YouTube. I mean, like, just as an example, if you go in the comment threads on my YouTube videos, there's so much spam. There's these spam bots that push, if you ever see a comment on my YouTube video where they start talking about, who would I use for an investment advisor? And there's like 16 comments and, oh, you should call this person. Oh, her Telegram is this or her WhatsApp is that. And there's this whole discussion of it's all bogus. That's all bots. It's all a scam. And then there are and this happens to other YouTubers as well. Both of these things happen to other YouTubers. There are fake accounts that use my image and my name and might say pinned by Warren Redlick or might just say Warren Redlick, and it encourages people to call me on some WhatsApp number. It's not me. So there's a lot of scams. Yeah, the same thing's happening on Twitter as well. There's a lot of stuff that's happening on YouTube comments that YouTube is not taking care of, and it bothers me. And I've actually heard of people have reached out to me. I think this was from Twitter. Maybe it was on YouTube. People have reached out to me saying, "Hey, Warren, I'm getting these weird messages from you. It's not me." And YouTube should fix that, and they don't. And YouTube should fix this demonetization thing, and they don't. And if you're going to censor me, tell me what part of at least tell me what time codes in the video are leading to the censorship decision. Because they do that if I use a music track from Taylor Swift or the Rolling Stones or something like that, and it's long enough. If it's like less than something like 7 seconds, they don't care. But if it's long enough, then you get a notice that you violated somebody's copyright, and it gives you the exact time code where the alleged copyright violation occurred, and then you can challenge it. This actually happened to me recently with an older video, which I'm confident I'm not violating copyright. That's a long story what the video, I don't even remember which the specific video is, but I incorporated a video. Oh, it's the guy who's laughing. It's the Spanish guy who laughs like a lunatic. And I incorporated his laughing in my video, but I substantially transformed the work as something that leads to fair use under copyright. But they told me where in the video the offense was, so I could go look at it and see, and so I could explain my defense. And if I thought, and they all give you the opportunity to silence or remove the clip if you're doing that. So tell me where I violated your, what you're censoring me for, and maybe I'll remove that part of the clip. So YouTube knows of the scams and does nothing until a court is involved. I wonder if they get money from the scammers. It's possible. It's unlikely. I just think they don't care. The big tech companies like Twitter and YouTube lost interest in the shareholders and the users. They don't care about us. They don't care about the creators. They don't care about you, the users, the way they should. The Locals platform, frankly, is better about this. You can't comment on Locals without being a paying supporter. So there's no scams in the comments. There's no scams in the chat. So it's a better platform for that reason. As far as I can tell, the video is fine. I don't know. People say that it's better on YouTube. I mean, yeah, the Q&A is better on YouTube because you have more participants, but I think this is pretty good. They don't want to spend money. They don't want to spend time. They don't want to spend resources. They want to pursue other issues. Mike asks, and I think everybody on Locals knows the answer to this question. Do I need to be on Locals instead of Patreon to watch these? How much is it? So to watch these videos on Locals, if you're watching on YouTube now or some other platform, to watch these videos on Locals is free. I think you have to sign. I'm not even sure you have to sign up as a member, as a non-paying member, and that means you might get email saying, "Hey, Warren posted something," right? I think that's all you have to do, and you might not even have to do that, but that's free. If you want to participate in the chat or if you want to comment on videos, then you have to be a paying supporter. It's like $5 a month. And this is a way that YouTubers, Patreon, YouTube channel membership, Locals, this is a way that people who are doing what I do, what Stephen Mark Ryan does, what The Limiting Factor does, if you can build a following who pays to support your channel, then it's an independent source of income. And if you have a bad month because people aren't advertising on YouTube that much, or you decided to do some videos that were interesting but not as broadly appealing to build a big audience, that's what Limiting Factor does, right? Limiting Factor does videos that are kind of a narrow audience, and he doesn't have to chase the algorithm and try to constantly, I don't feel like I chase the algorithm a little, but I don't think I chase the algorithm that much. And I make the videos I want to make rather than worrying about, because if I wanted to make money, I would make videos about Lucid stock and Tesla stock all day long, and I would get more views and I would make more money. But I want to talk about the stuff I want to talk about, and that allows me to stay true to what my passion, what I'm excited about, what's happening. I wouldn't make videos about the boring company in Neuralink because people don't watch those as much, but I'm excited about these. I wouldn't have done my video with Emmett Peppers because that one's not going to get as much views, but I really enjoyed that conversation with Emmett Peppers, and I'm so able to bring you, the audience, a broader variety of content, and I'm able to talk about more of my passion. I have a lot of different things that I'm excited about. And I think if you end up chasing the algorithm, at some point you become caught up in chasing the algorithm and you lose your passion. And then I think that's pretty sad. And I think you probably know of YouTube channels that have lost their way. They've lost their focus. They don't seem passionate anymore. They're just following a formula. I don't want to be a guy who just follows a formula. I want to talk about what I'm excited about. So that's why I'm on Locals. Locals protects my free speech rights. I do think there's a chance that if Elon succeeds in taking over Twitter, that Twitter might create a long form. One of the things that could happen is they could create a long form video platform on Twitter. They kind of already do. And it might make sense to do my videos on Twitter instead of on Locals. But I think that's a long ways away if it happens at all. If Twitter becomes a free speech platform, that's probably a better platform. Mitch says, I wish I had a higher net worth. I would definitely invest with Emmett. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a $5 million net worth in order to invest with Emmett's fund, Good Soil Investments. So check out my video. It's a recent video on my YouTube channel. I interviewed Emmett Peppers and Matt Smith about Tesla stock options, about Roblox, about Rocket Lab, and about Lemonade Insurance. And we talked about unapologetic capitalism, which I'm going to talk about after I finish the Q&A. So this is from YouTube channel members. George Strickland says, Warren, with Tesla doing full self-driving computer learning robots, etc., what are the chances that the United States government forces Tesla and SpaceX into weapon manufacturing? I don't know what AJ is. Oh, maybe it's AI weapon manufacturing. And if so, do you think Elon would... Most of the world's most horrific weapons have been made by pacifists. Interest in your critical thoughts. SpaceX already does work for the military, and they're talking about they do military launches of satellites, and they're talking about doing the point-to-point, Starship point-to-point, being able to go from one spot on Earth to another in a half hour. They have talked with the military about using Starship to deliver payloads other places. As far as I know, Elon is perfectly comfortable working with the U.S. military in ways. What I think Elon's been clear about is he's not going to make bot military. He doesn't want to create the next Terminator. He doesn't want to create the Terminator. Bot is not something that he wants to make into a weapon. I'm not sure, I don't think so far that Tesla and SpaceX are making weapons. I could see Cybertruck becoming a military vehicle. And I don't think they would oppose that. But, I don't see SpaceX making, cruise missiles or bombs. I don't see any Elon doing that with any of his companies. I don't know. I don't get the sense that he's that worried about that. SpaceX is very involved with the Pentagon. Elon has said he doesn't want to make weapons, but can possibly be forced to. I don't think he can be forced to make weapons. I don't think it works that way. And I think, if Elon's, but I don't think they need him to make weapons. He's already making Skynet, Starlink, once he puts intelligence in the satellites. Yeah, Starlink is Skynet from the Terminator. Yeah. I don't think Starlink is not designed for that. It's not AI in space. That's not what it is. Do I think David asked, do I think Elon used the X Holdings company to secure funding for the Twitter acquisition offer? I believe that Elon used some sort of companies to allow outside investors to join in, allied investors to join in to help finance the Twitter acquisition offer. I didn't focus on what specifically they did or what company they used. I don't think that's very important. I think it's pretty obvious that Elon can bring together people with a lot of money to finance an acquisition of Twitter. He just brought together a bunch of people with a lot of money to finance the Boring Company. He's raised money for the Neuralink. He's raised money for SpaceX. He doesn't have a shortage of people who are willing to come up with money to support his ventures. And I think it's pretty obvious that Elon will greatly increase the value of Twitter. That Twitter is not achieving. The people who run Twitter are underachieving. They are not really acting in the interest of shareholders. They're not maximizing shareholder value, which is an obligation of Twitter's board and Twitter's management, and they're not doing that. I am a Twitter shareholder. I own 80 shares. I bought them when I realized Elon was probably going to make a play for Twitter. Had good timing, and if it goes through at Elon's offer price of $54 or whatever, I make like 20% on my bet. Well, it's not a big bet for me, but so just full disclosure. So I wanted to talk about unapologetic capitalism. So I interviewed Emmett Peppers. Emmett Peppers has an investment management fund, or a hedge fund, called Good Soil Investment Management. And Good Soil, one of the ideas that he has behind Good Soil is that they earn fees from their investors, and half of the fees go to a charity. And they're working on figuring out what charity to support, or what charities to support with the money they get from the fees from their hedge fund. And the way he described it was, because capitalism gets a bad rap and people think capitalism is evil, giving money to charity from our hedge fund is a way of showing that capitalism has a good side. And I didn't like that. I mean, I didn't get angry, but I didn't like that. If Twitter becomes a free speech platform, will YouTube and the networks follow? No, I don't think. They will probably become worse. So I think we need to stop apologizing for capitalism. And my favorite example of this, I mean, Elon's companies are a great example of capitalism. Like, there's a recent video clip of him, the TED Talk, talking about how what Elon's company's doing is philanthropy. It's love of humanity. Philanthropy is love of humanity. And philanthropy, giving to charity, is commonly thought of as philanthropy, but philanthropy is love of humanity. And Tesla accelerating the transition to sustainable energy, making driving fun again, all this other stuff that Tesla is doing, solar, battery packs to support the grid. Tesla, that private investment, the private company or publicly held company, shareholder capitalism, whatever, delivering products and services to customers that make their lives better, does more for humanity than giving money to some charity. And I think the greatest example is, leave out Elon's companies for a second, look at the country China and go back 50 years or so, before Deng Xiaoping. China was a communist country, capitalism wasn't allowed, and people were like horribly poor. I used to do Tai Chi and Qigong, and my Tai Chi teacher came from China, and he described how they would find a tree that had bark on it, scrape the bark off the tree, make soup out of it, and it would make them sick, but it would give them some nourishment. That's how poor China was. And Deng Xiaoping said, you know what? This system really isn't working. Let's embrace capitalism. And China embraced capitalism, and today China is the largest economy in the world, probably larger than the United States. It is a very successful economy. There's all kinds of people have very, very shallow ideas about what's going on in the Chinese economy. They think they're just copycats. Absolutely not true. China has massive innovation, very, very interesting developments. TikTok, you can make fun of TikTok all you want, but it's really sophisticated artificial intelligence behind TikTok. Some of they have if there's competition for Tesla and EVs, it's coming from China. It's not coming from the US or Europe. And a lot of that happened it all happened because China embraced capitalism. And China didn't become wealthy, and all this success didn't spread because rich Chinese people gave money away to charity. It's because they created jobs and they improved the economy and they made their economy better. And that capitalism lifts nearly all boats. Is somebody going to lose out? Is somebody going to suffer when you have unfettered capitalism? First of all, there isn't unfettered capitalism anywhere. Capitalism always has fetters. As long as there is government, there are fetters on capitalism. But China's more capitalist than the United States, and they're growing like crazy, and they've made life better for over 1 billion people. Dramatically better for over 1 billion people. Jim says, people who whine about greed in companies never want to talk about greedy government that takes over 50% of rich people's money and squanders it. I go right there with them and they start babbling nonsense. They worship corrupt governments. Yeah, I mean, really, we've replaced God with government. We've replaced God with gov. And you say takes over 50% of rich people's money. I don't think you realize how bad it is. What you see is they take over 50% of rich people's money. What you don't see is that government spending in the United States, federal, state, and local combined, is about 50% of GDP. So really, one way or another, they're taking half of all of our money. And they're spending it badly. So, and, I don't care how much Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama and whichever, and you can pick on Republicans too, how much they talk about how they're going to do something great for society. Capitalism in the form of Tesla is delivering self-driving cars, is delivering the transition to sustainable energy. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama are not solving climate change. I'm not a big climate change nut, just to be clear, but if you believe in the climate change story, Elon Musk is the one who's doing the most about it. Tesla, the Tesla team, the capitalism going on at Tesla is what's delivering change in CO2 emissions. And so many other ways that you see Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. People love to pick on Jeff Bezos. I like to pick on Jeff Bezos a little bit, but Amazon made the world a much better place. It made my life much better. I want to buy something. I don't worry about going to stores anymore. I go on Amazon, I shop, I check reviews. Sometimes it gets delivered to my house the same day. I mean, there's some magic going on at Amazon. It's not just Bezos. The Amazon team is pretty good. I'm not saying they're perfect. They've done some things I don't like. Jeff Bezos has done some things I don't like, but made the world a better place for probably more than 1 billion people. And I self-published a book. If you go in, I think there's a link in the description below. If you're on YouTube, I think there's a link to my book, Fair DUI, or you go on Amazon and you search for Fair DUI, you'll find my book. I self-published a book. Amazon made it easy to self-publish a book. Jeff Bezos did that. He did something very positive. Jim says Ayn Rand's books are still relevant. Capitalism, for its flaws, still delivers. Government just takes. Actually, this notion of unapologetic capitalism is partly driven by the book Atlas Shrugged. And the guy, what's his name? Hank Rearden is... There are constantly people coming to Hank Rearden asking him for money for this or asking him for that. And there's this notion that you need to give back because that's, what you have to do when you're successful. That you didn't build that, right? You didn't build that line from Obama. Well, yeah, I built stuff, and no, Barack Obama didn't help me do it. And if you take my money, you're not going to help me build something else. You're going to drop bombs on innocent people. That's what government really does with our money. They give it to their buddies and they drop bombs on innocent people. That is a large chunk of what they do with our money. They don't help the homeless. They don't help the poor. The war. We had a war on poverty since like the 60s. So like 60 years of the war on poverty. When are we going to win this thing? So NASA spends 10 times as much as SpaceX for an SLS system. Government waste. Yeah, socialism leads to wasteful failure. Capitalism leads to success. And this line that I have, that this idea that we have to apologize for capitalism is false, and it's a little bit dumb. We don't need to apologize for capitalism. We got to stop trumpeting we got to start bragging about capitalism, how great it is. Capitalism is wonderful. Is it perfect? No. Is American democracy perfect? No. Sucks pretty bad if you ask me. But democracy is probably better than tyranny. Unfortunately, it seems like we're heading to democratic tyranny, but democracy is probably better than dictatorship. If we could get back to democracy, that would be nice. But even democracy is flawed. There's nothing perfect in the world. Libertarianism, I talk about libertarianism, and people are like, oh, Warren, libertarianism, blah, blah, blah. I never said libertarianism is perfect. It's just better. And capitalism is just better. Monopolies are, so David asks about monopolies. Monopolies are generally speaking driven by government. I mean, the cable TV monopoly in your town, and for a long time, most places, cable television have monopoly. You know why they have monopoly? Because local governments gave them a monopoly. The patent system gives monopolies to people. The copyright system gives monopolies to people. Government creates monopolies. The private sector doesn't create monopolies. The government creates monopolies. David says, that's my point. They need to be broken up. We need to have government stop creating monopolies. That would be nice. I don't know that they need to be broken up. I think one of my biggest fears for Tesla is that government's going to decide Tesla's too big and government's going to break it up. I actually think Tesla and Elon are smart enough that they might break themselves up before the government gets to that. Mitch says, love how the radical left wants socialism. When you point out it's never worked anywhere, they say, we'll do it correctly. We just need to elect the right people. No. You've been saying that for years. Socialism hasn't worked from the very beginning. It's a total disaster. Capitalism is fantastic. Capitalism is wonderful. Stop apologizing for capitalism. If somebody trashes capitalism, fight back. And really, just so you had socialism in China for like 50 years. And then since then, we've had capitalism in China for 50 years. Which worked better? Capitalism worked a hell of a lot better in China than socialism. So, all right, we're more than an hour in. This is longer than my usual thing. Let me just see if there's any other comments on the video. No, I don't think so. Starlink is open outernet. Internet is government controlled. I don't know if the internet is really government controlled. There's some level of government control on the internet. All right. So we're over an hour. I think I should probably wrap up. I don't see any more comments in the chat. I don't see any more comments on the video. Wait. Jim says, in an online argument with a socialist, I pointed out the failures of Cuba and Venezuela. He said they weren't socialist. I said, they say they are. Are they liars? The Nazis were socialist. The National Socialist whatever party. The Nazis called themselves socialist. Look, you either believe in individual rights and individual liberty, or you believe in tyranny. That's my take on it. If you believe that government, and there's this concept in Western political philosophy called consent of the government. the consent of the governed, that we consented to be governed. Somehow there's this social contract theory or whatever that we all agreed, okay, we're going to give government the power to control us or to govern us. And I'll ask you this question. Tell me something, you don't have to, obviously this is a video, you can't really tell me, but tell me something you like doing that you consent to government stopping you from doing, including the use of force, including possibly killing you if you go ahead and do it. Do you consent to being governed in that way? Or something you don't want to do and you consent to government forcing you to do it, potentially even using force, putting you in a cage or killing you if you don't do what they want you to do. Do you consent to that? If you don't consent to that, you don't consent to be governed. What you really do, what you're doing is you want government to govern others. You want the government to control other people. You don't want to be controlled. You don't really consent to being governed. You just want them to govern others. So the consent of the governed is a lie. Democracy is pretty much a fiction. If you really pay attention to what's going on in elections, we don't get a whole lot of choices. It's supposed to be the people are choosing. We don't get a whole lot of meaningful choices. So, all right. Political rant ending the video. Hope that's not too bad. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. The world's big. That's not a Reagan thing. Scariest words in the English language are I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Most elections is picking the lesser of two evils. It's not even the lesser of two evils. They're the same evil. They pretend to be different. There's really not much different. People think there's this huge difference between the Republican guy and the Democrat guy, and 98% of what happens in Washington, D.C., both parties are behind it. They pretend to, this whole thing with Disney and wokeism and LGBT stuff or abortion stuff. We've been arguing about abortion for 50 years since Roe versus Wade in 1973. Has anything really meaningfully changed in abortion law since 1973? No, we just keep arguing about it. They keep us arguing about abortion while they steal our money, right? They keep us arguing about gay this or social justice that or whatever. They keep us arguing about stuff that they don't care about it. The people in DC, the Democrats and Republicans, neither one of them cares about that stuff. They just want to steal our money and give it to their friends. That's all they care about. 98% of what happens in Washington is unanimous, and then they fool us into thinking there's actually a difference between the two of them. There isn't. Okay, so you got my opinion. I went more political than usual in my weekly live stream, but this is the Daily Lie, and if you are at all interested, number one, normally these weekly videos are not this political. This is, I guess, because I decided to talk about unapologetic capitalism, it got more political. But every week I do this, and I do other videos on this channel where I dive deep on some political issues, and most of those videos are for supporters only, or some of those videos are for supporters only. So if you're really interested in hearing a little bit more about how Warren thinks about this stuff and having that kind of engagement and participating in the chat, please consider supporting this platform on Locals, and that will help me continue down this path. So I want to thank everybody. An Ayn Rand libertarian. My joke, Jim, is that not that I used to call myself a libertarian, but I don't believe in that much government anymore. So thanks everyone for watching. If you're on YouTube, please check out my other videos. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com and support this channel on the Locals platform. Thank you so much for watching.